I never imagined a simple text message in the depths of night would shatter the carefully constructed life I'd built across a decade. I'm Marcus Thorne, 42, employed as a senior intelligence analyst at a private defense contractor based in Atlanta, Georgia. My profession involves long hours scrutinizing screens, analyzing satellite data, and producing confidential reports for government agencies. The isolation suits my temperament. At least, it did until that fateful message arrived. I was working late in my office, surrounded by the gentle whir of air conditioning and the rhythmic tapping of my keyboard. My desk was cluttered with empty coffee mugs and discarded paper notes when my phone vibrated against the wooden surface. A single, sharp buzz. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number. The message appeared, stark and clear against the dark display. "Daddy, please help. Mom's doing something terrible at the house." My heart plummeted. The message was from Emma, my 14-year-old daughter. She resides with my former wife, Sarah Mitchell, in a peaceful suburban neighborhood near Charlotte, North Carolina. Our marriage ended 5 years ago, with Sarah retaining full custody. She works as an accountant, always seemed reliable and stable, or so I believed. I immediately tried calling the unknown number. It rang briefly before redirecting to a blank voicemail box. No recorded message, just emptiness. My anxiety surged. I dialed Emma's regular number. No response. Then Sarah's. Same result. Silent void. Something was seriously amiss. I hastily gathered my essentials, keys, laptop, and rushed toward the parking garage. Outside, a fierce summer storm was transforming Atlanta into a kaleidoscope of blurred lights and sheeting rain. I leaped into my weathered Chevrolet pickup and accelerated away, tires struggling for grip on the wet pavement. Charlotte lay 4 hours ahead, and waiting wasn't an option. The interstate stretched endlessly forward, rain hammering against the windshield with such intensity that the wipers struggled to maintain visibility. My thoughts raced wildly. Sarah was a financial professional, never one for trouble. What situation could she be involved in that would terrify Emma enough to send such a message? Financial fraud? Criminal connections? Something more sinister? Each mile amplified my anxiety. I couldn't shake the image of Emma's frightened face, her amber eyes, so like mine, filled with terror. Midway through the journey, another message arrived. I pulled over, pulse racing to read it. In a closet hiding. They're arguing about money. Mom's sobbing. I gunned the engine, its roar competing with the storm's fury. Before I continue this harrowing tale, let me pause briefly. I'm curious to know where you're following this story from. Share your location in the comments. I'd like to know who's journeying through this nightmare with me. And if you're intrigued by what's unfolding, consider subscribing to stay updated on what happens next. Believe me, this story takes an intense turn. I entered Charlotte just as the downpour subsided, leaving behind a sky that resembled a dark bruise. There stood Tara's residence, a modest single-story ranch house in a quiet cul-de-sac, with weathered siding and an unkempt lawn. I'd once called this place home, during Sadie's early years. But something felt different now. 2 pristine white SUVs were parked along the curb, their polished surfaces reflecting the harsh streetlight. Tinted windows. Nothing like Tara's usual taste. I parked my truck several houses away and observed. Behind the drawn curtains, figures moved with purposeful, sharp movements. Then I spotted him. A man emerged onto the porch, muscular build, broad-shouldered, with something metallic catching the light in his grip. A firearm. My heart nearly stopped. Whatever mess Tara had involved Sadie in wasn't some trivial dispute. This was serious. Deadly serious. And I was stepping into it completely unprepared. I concealed myself behind a neighbor's untrimmed hedge, kneeling in the damp grass, where the scent of rain-soaked earth mingled with my nervous perspiration. Tara's house stood ominously against the clearing sky. Those white SUVs remained stationary, their cooling engines making soft clicking sounds. My pickup was hidden from view, but my instincts were screaming danger. Sadie was inside, terrified, and I had no strategy. Not yet. I pulled out my phone and sent another text. "Baby girl, I'm here. Stay quiet. Tell me what you see." The wait felt eternal. Finally, her response came through. 2 guys in the living room. One's got a gun on the couch. Mom's in the kitchen, shaking real bad. My teeth clenched. 2 armed intruders in my former home. This wasn't some random break-in. I crept forward, hugging the shadows cast by a drooping oak tree. The recent rain had created pools that caught the glow of the porch light. Through a small gap in the drapes, I detected movement. A man, wearing a black hoodie, prowled the living room, a handgun swinging casually from his fingers as if he belonged there. Another figure stood near the television, shouting something inaudible, his massive frame blocking the screen. Suddenly, Tara appeared. Her blonde hair was disheveled, her complexion ashen. She was gripping a bundle of documents, her hands shaking so violently they threatened to scatter across the floor. The armed man whipped his head in her direction, causing her to recoil violently. My hands clenched into fists. Whatever trouble she was in, it was destroying her. But finding Sadie remained my primary concern. I maneuvered around the house's perimeter, my boots sinking into the sodden ground. The kitchen window was slightly ajar, allowing snippets of conversation to escape. I pressed myself against the wall, listening intently. Tara's voice emerged first, strained and broken. "Please, I told you I'd get it done. Just leave her out of this." A deeper voice interrupted, heavy with a Miami accent. "You don't call the shots, lady. You missed the deadline. Boss ain't happy." A metallic sound followed. My stomach lurched. Someone had just readied a weapon. I peered through the window. Tara was positioned by the sink, with a towering figure hovering over her. He sported a clean-shaven head, wore a gold chain around his neck, and held a revolver against her temple. She remained silent, her eyes glazed with fear, staring straight ahead. Then I noticed it. A distinct chemical odor drifted through the window, acrid and sharp, like bleach combined with something acidic. Not typical kitchen aromas. My intelligence background kicked in. Money launderers often use chemicals to obscure cash trails or fabricate documents. Had Tara become an accountant for criminals? My mind raced. She'd always been legitimate, managing books for local businesses. What had driven her to this? I lowered myself as the gunman stepped back, holstering his weapon with a gruff sound. "Keep your kid quiet, or we'll do it for you." Tara nodded frantically, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to crash through that window, but I'd be shot before landing. 2 armed men inside, possibly more. I needed reinforcements. I withdrew to the hedge, my heart thundering against my ribs. My fingers were already punching in Jonas Perry's number, a trusted FBI contact from my days as a contractor. He answered quickly, his voice thick with sleep, but immediately focused. "Miles, what's going on?" I kept my words precise. "Charlotte. Tara's house. Armed individuals. Sadie's trapped. Looks like a money laundering operation." His sharp intake of breath crackled through the line. "Don't move. I'll check our databases. We've been monitoring some crews from Miami targeting the southeast region. Could be connected. Wait for my call back before doing anything rash." I ended the call, my eyes fixed on the house. Jonas was reliable, but waiting felt like abandoning her. Sadie's next message made my decision inevitable. "Daddy, they're heading up here. I think they've noticed my texting." Terror gripped my chest. No more time left. I burst from the hedge like a desperate fugitive, my boots losing traction in the wet earth as I sprinted back to my vehicle. Sadie's final message echoed in my mind. "They're heading up here. I think they've noticed my texting." My daughter was trapped, and I was helplessly stranded outside. I yanked the door closed and started the engine, speeding toward a budget motel several miles away. The vacancy sign flickered in sickly yellow neon, casting unstable shadows across the parking area. I registered using an alias, paid cash, and lugged my laptop case to a room reeking of old smoke and dampness. Every second counted. I needed intelligence on my opponents. I positioned myself at an unsteady desk, my screen's light piercing the darkness. My profession has provided me access to sophisticated tools most people aren't aware exist. Using a backdoor I'd created years ago during a contract job, I infiltrated Charlotte's traffic camera system. Legality wasn't my concern when my daughter's survival hung in the balance. I examined feeds around Tara's property. The white SUVs were easily spotted. One departed at 2:17 a.m., heading southbound on I-85. Another arrived 20 minutes later, discharging 2 men in dark jackets carrying duffel bags. Heavy ones. I magnified a pixelated frame. Something visible protruded from one bag. Cash bundles, tightly wrapped. My gut twisted. This operation was significant. I ran the plates through my private scrub database. The first SUV traced to a shell corporation in Miami, a predictable discovery. The second was linked to a non-operational auto repair shop in Raleigh. Textbook money laundering operations. Tara wasn't merely struggling. She was entangled with dangerous players. I was massaging my tired eyes when my phone illuminated. Jonas calling. What's the situation? His tone was terse. They're connected to Cesar Ortiz, major operator from Miami. Specializes in laundering illicit funds through legitimate enterprises. Intelligence suggests he's establishing operations in Charlotte. Your former wife might be handling his accounts. I muttered a curse. Tara managing books for a crime lord? That explained the weapons, the palpable fear. But why involve Sadie? I needed surveillance inside. I assembled a drone from my equipment cache, a silent surveillance unit I'd previously employed for work reconnaissance. By first light, I was stationed in a strip mall parking area half a mile from Tara's, navigating it carefully above the rooflines. The video feed flickered online. I positioned it near the rear window. The kitchen stood vacant, but the counter displayed an array of laptops, accounting books, and a disposable phone. A figure suddenly crossed the frame. An unfamiliar man. Slim build, prominent cheekbones, sporting a scorpion tattoo that wrapped around his neck. Almost certainly Victor Salazar. Jonas had forwarded a grainy booking photo earlier. He examined a ledger while speaking forcefully into a phone. Transfer the next shipment tonight. She's weakening. We'll increase the pressure. My chest tightened. Tara was breaking down, and they were relentless. I withdrew the drone as headlights swept across the street. Too close for comfort. My hands trembled as I powered down. Then my phone chimed. Sadie. They've left temporarily. Mom's locked me in my bedroom. She's fighting with the tattooed man. Mentioned something about a deal collapsing. I responded quickly. Stay calm. I'm working on a solution. But my thoughts raced. A failed deal? Could mean police attention, rival interference, or Caesar's displeasure. I stepped onto the motel's balcony, morning humidity hanging heavy. A black sedan glided past Terrace Street on the surveillance feed, moving deliberately. Windows tinted, plates unreadable. Another observer in play. The situation was escalating, with Sadie trapped in the middle. I sat in the motel room, eyes fixed on the drone footage showing Victor Salazar's serpentine tattoo, my untouched coffee turning tepid. With Sadie confined to her room, Tara unraveling, and an ominous black sedan prowling the streets. I knew I needed backup. Jonas had sent coordinates for a rendezvous with a trusted ATF contact, Special Agent Lila Tran. Gathering my equipment, I headed out as dawn's light struggled to pierce Charlotte's morning haze. The meeting point was a dilapidated diner on a remote highway, its pink neon open sign sputtering weakly. My truck's tires crunched over shattered glass in a gravel lot as I spotted her through the grimy window, seated in a corner booth. Lila was unexpectedly youthful, perhaps early 30s, her penetrating dark eyes tracking me instantly as I slid into the seat opposite her. Her black blazer had rolled sleeves, and a half-consumed coffee sat neglected nearby. She spoke tersely. You're Miles Kendrick. Jonas mentioned you're in trouble. I confirmed with a brief nod. My daughter's being held at my ex-wife's house. Armed guards. Money laundering operation. I believe it's Cesar Ortiz's organization. Her eyebrow twitched slightly, but she maintained composure, leaning forward onto the table. Ortiz is a phantom. Launders money through small enterprises across the Southeast. We've been tracking him for months, but he's well insulated. Your ex, Tara? She's just another piece in his game. My fists clenched beneath the table. Piece or not, she's holding Sadie captive. Lila extracted a slim folder from her bag and passed it over. Inside were surveillance photos. Tara at a bank, meeting Victor in a lot, dated weeks prior. Lila indicated one image. She fell in with Ortiz after your split. Gambling debts mounted. He offered salvation through book cooking. Now she's trapped. She paused, assessing me. They're using Sadie as insurance. My throat constricted. Last night's encounter made sense now. She's petrified, Lila acknowledged grimly. Fears their control mechanism. But Ortiz doesn't make idle threats. If Tara falters, Sadie pays the price. I met her stare, voice steely. Then we bring him down. Immediately, Lila exhaled deeply, settling back. I wish I could launch an operation now, but we're understaffed. Between budget constraints and bureaucratic hurdles, my hands are tied. I need concrete evidence for a warrant, vehicle records, photographic proof, anything connecting Ortiz to that location. Get me that, and I can take action. I met her gaze intently. So while my daughter's in danger, you want to play detective? Her expression remained resolute. I'm asking you to help us build a case. I can't deploy tactical teams without cause. You're our surveillance until I can mobilize properly. The tension between us was palpable. Breaking the silence, she reached into her bag, retrieving a compact case. Inside lay a compact black revolver. Unofficial backup. For critical situations. I accepted it, feeling its substantial weight. My phone vibrated as I concealed the weapon. It was Jonas. I answered immediately. His voice carried urgency. Found something. Ortiz's people are moving funds tonight. Tara's location is central to the operation. Be careful. After hanging up, I informed Lila. She rose, leaving payment on the table. Get photographic evidence. I'll work my channels. But Miles, if you act independently and compromise this, I can't protect you. Ortiz has surveillance everywhere. I acknowledged silently, already moving toward the exit. The diner's bell chimed as I emerged into the sticky evening air. Darkness approached, bringing an opportunity to act. But any misstep would endanger Sadie. The pressure was mounting, and the outcome remained uncertain. I positioned my vehicle beneath a malfunctioning street lamp 2 blocks from the warehouse Jonas identified, listening to the engine cool in Charlotte's humid night. Lila needed evidence, and tonight Ortiz's team was transferring money. This location, a deteriorating brick structure west of Tara's, served as their money house. Earlier, I tracked one of their white SUVs here through traffic surveillance, watching it disappear among industrial buildings. My computer remained dormant beside me. Field work took priority now. I secured Lila's firearm, grabbed my flashlight and a slim prying tool from my equipment, and exited. The atmosphere was heavy with industrial odors and decaying timber, punctuated by distant insect sounds. The warehouse loomed behind a rusted chain-link barrier, its windows sealed with plywood, dim illumination seeping through the gaps. I maneuvered cautiously around the perimeter, maintaining a low profile, until discovering a section where the fence had weakened. I slipped through the opening, the metal catching my jacket, and approached a side entrance partially concealed by a waste container. Muffled conversations filtered out, terse and controlled, accompanied by glass tinkling. I worked the crowbar into position, defeating the lock with a subtle crack. The door inched open. I remained motionless, alert. No security system triggered, only steady footfalls within. I entered silently, flashlight unused, as my vision adapted to the darkness. The space reeked of harsh chemicals, acrid and penetrating, reminiscent of the scent from Tara's. I pressed against the wall, navigating past stacked containers toward illumination at the distant end. A crude operation materialized. 3 individuals, heavily muscled and tattooed, concentrated over portable tables laden with currency. One rapidly counted bills, his fingers moving precisely. Another sealed them in plastic, securing each package methodically. The third, lean with a clean-shaven scalp, patrolled carrying a shotgun across his back. I concealed myself behind industrial paint containers, my pulse racing. Then I noticed it, a corroded barrel in the corner, uncovered, dripping clear fluid that burned my nostrils. Likely hydrochloric acid. Perfect. I could incinerate their profits and escape, leaving them scrambling while providing Lila with the chaos she needed. I crept closer, remaining concealed, and retrieved paint solvent from the stack. Despite the overwhelming fumes, I maintained control. I carefully poured it into the drum, creating a reactive mixture. The lean guard halted his patrol, detecting the odor. Something's wrong. Check the rear. My heart rate accelerated. I grabbed nearby fabric, saturated it in the solution, and retrieved my lighter. The others glanced up, reaching toward their weapons. I ignited the flame, launched the soaked cloth into the barrel, and sought cover behind the crates. Flames erupted instantly, shooting upward, scattering embers across the money. Currency charred and disintegrated as fire spread. Panicked voices erupted. Extinguish it. Secure the merchandise. Dense smoke billowed through the air, choking and suffocating. I darted toward the exit as the guard with a shotgun swung in my direction. A deafening blast erupted, pellets splintering a nearby crate mere inches from my skull. I dropped and rolled, scrambled to my feet, and crashed through the doorway. In the parking lot, tires squealed against asphalt. Bright headlights pierced the darkness, signaling the arrival of another crew drawn by the growing inferno. Heart pounding, I sprinted toward the fence, my chest burning with each breath, and squeezed through the gap while bullets ricocheted off the metal behind me. I reached my truck, fumbling with trembling keys, and accelerated away, watching the warehouse glow like a torch in my rearview mirror. My phone vibrated, a message from Sadie. "Everyone's in chaos here," screaming about an attack. I clenched the steering wheel tighter. I disturbed their operation, but Ortiz's response remained an ominous mystery. Adrenaline still coursed through my system as I pulled into the motel parking lot, my hands quivering against the wheel. The acrid stench of smoke embedded in my clothing. Sadie's warning about the crews panic echoed in my thoughts. I'd successfully rattled them, but the consequences remained uncertain. My phone illuminated again, this time displaying an unknown burner number. "Miles, we need to meet. Carver Park, 9 p.m. I am truly sorry. Tara." I stared at the message, dread coiling in my stomach. Tara reaching out now, after everything that happened? It reeked of deception, yet her apology nagged at my conscience. I needed to understand her game. I retrieved Lila's pistol, concealed it beneath my jacket, and ventured out into the heavy Charlotte night, stars obscured by thick clouds. Carver Park stretched along the town's periphery, a maze of unkempt paths and weathered picnic tables shrouded in darkness. I arrived early, parking beside a deteriorating swing set that swayed eerily in the wind. From behind a massive pine tree, its needles muffling my movements, I surveyed the lot. At 9:05, headlights cut through the darkness. An old sedan, not the typical luxury SUV, rolled in. Tara emerged, her posture tense, arms wrapped protectively around herself. She surveyed the trees, her features strained and ashen in the faint moonlight. I waited until confirming she was alone before emerging, weapon ready but lowered. She startled, eyes widening. "Miles, you actually came." I maintained my distance, keeping my voice level. "You have 5 minutes. Explain." She gulped nervously, her trembling fingers brushing stray hair from her face. This wasn't supposed to happen. After a breakup, I turned to gambling, slots, poker, anything to fill the void. The debts accumulated rapidly. Ortiz's people tracked me down, proposed a solution. Launder their money, and they'd erase what I owed. I thought I could manage it. Her voice wavered. I was mistaken. I observed her carefully, this woman who'd once held my heart, now unraveling before me. "You allowed them to use Sadie as leverage." She recoiled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "They concealed that detail until I was in too deep." Victor appeared one night, pressed a gun against her head, threatened her into silence. My fingers tightened around the pistol. "You could have reached out to me." She shook her head frantically. "Ortiz controls most local law enforcement. When I attempted to leave, they vandalized our home, left a blade in Sadie's pillow." I was cornered. Her revelation struck hard, but I pressed on. "Why contact me now? Why this meeting?" She dried her tears, lowering her voice. The warehouse incident rattled them. "Ortiz suspects rival gang involvement. They're relocating Sadie and the money tomorrow. To Raleigh, some secure location." I overheard Victor's call. "They're finished with me." I inhaled sharply. Sadie's relocation changed the entire scenario. I stepped nearer, holding her gaze. "Are you sharing this to protect her, or yourself?" A sob escaped her. "Both." I screwed up, Miles. I despise myself for it. Sadie can't even face me anymore. But I know the location. Old Mill Road, just off 64. If you're planning something, time is critical. A branch cracked somewhere in the darkness. I whirled around, weapon raised, scanning the tree line. Only shadows greeted me. Tara froze, whispering, "They monitor me sometimes." I grasped her arm, guiding her toward the sedan. "Stay hidden. Alert me if plans change." She nodded shakily before climbing in. I retreated to my truck, the park's eerie silence closing in. Tara's confession rang authentic, but that noise in the woods lingered. Someone lurked nearby, and my cover was wearing thin. Sleep eluded me after Tara's revelation, my motel room becoming a prison of flickering shadows and racing thoughts. Her dawn message was brief but clear. Tonight's the move. Old Mill Road. I reached out to Jonas and Lila, my voice hoarse from exhaustion. We convened at a secluded turnout near Charlotte. Towering pines standing guard like ancient watchers. Jonas arrived in his weathered Jeep, exhausted but alert. Lila appeared moments later, her ATF credentials catching the light beneath her coat. I briefed them quickly. Ortiz is transporting Sadie to a Raleigh safe house. Location confirmed by Tara. Lila swore, restless steps betraying her frustration. Can't mobilize official backup tonight. Too much red tape. Jonas gripped my shoulder. Count me in. We'll handle it discreetly. I agreed, anxious but determined. Time to finish this. The journey to Raleigh passed in a haze. 2 hours navigating winding country roads beneath a starless night. Old Mill Road carved through the woods like a graveled wound, leading to the safe house, a dilapidated 2-story structure leaning wearily against the hillside. We stopped our vehicle a quarter-mile away, the wheels rolling silently on soft ground to maintain stealth. I collected Lila's handgun and the pepper spray canister I'd acquired during the warehouse raid. Jonas carried his Glock, acknowledging me with a solemn nod. We moved, silently through the forest, branches catching on my coat, surrounded by the heavy scent of pine needles and wet soil. Light beams pierced the darkness ahead. 3 vehicles entered the property, an SUV, a van, and Tara's car. My heart raced. She had arrived. I motioned for Jonas to move leftward. He melted into the shadows. I approached a broken window on the shack's southern wall, peering through the shattered panes. The main floor was empty save for deteriorating walls and a single swaying light bulb. A staircase descended to the cellar, with voices drifting upward. I entered cautiously, wincing at the creaking floorboards. A trapdoor gaped open near the stairs. I knelt, listening. Victor's distinctive Miami accent carried clearly. Secure her properly. She's our escape plan. Rage surged through me. Sadie. I descended carefully, each step a risk, until reaching the bottom. A dank basement stretched before me, illuminated by a wavering lantern. Sadie was bound to a chair, her expression defiant despite her pallor. Victor loomed over her, pistol hanging loosely. 2 thugs stood beside him, one holding a rifle. Tara suddenly emerged from an adjacent chamber, pushed by Ortiz. He was unexpectedly small, lean, wearing an expensive suit with predatory eyes. He forced her forward, pressing a revolver against her spine. She's worthless now. Kill the kid if he appears. I retrieved my phone, started recording, and positioned on a nearby box, streaming to Lila. Insurance. Gripping the pepper spray, I inhaled deeply and threw it hard. It landed near Victor, spraying violently. Pandemonium broke loose. He wheezed, firing blindly. His men staggered, rubbing their eyes. I rushed forward, smashing Victor against the wall. His weapon discharged randomly, striking concrete. Daddy! Sadie cried out. Ortiz whirled around, discharging his weapon at me. The bullet grazed my thigh, sending searing pain through my leg. I lunged forward, pushing Tara away from his line of fire before tackling him. We crashed onto the floor together, his revolver sliding across the concrete. He fought back viciously, his fingernails leaving bloody trails across my neck. I slammed my fist into his face, then spotted a jagged piece of pipe in the dirt. He sneered at me. You're finished, Kendrick. I drove the pipe deep into his side, watching crimson spread rapidly across his expensive suit. He collapsed with a pain gasp. Victor, still half blinded by the pepper spray, charged toward us with a roar. I rolled sideways, grabbed his fallen pistol, and fired 2 precise shots. He dropped heavily. His remaining men scrambled up the stairs as tires screeched outside. Lila's authoritative voice cut through the chaos. ATF. Nobody move. Police sirens echoed in the distance. I rushed to Sadie, cutting her bonds and pulling her into my arms. She held on to me tightly, trembling. The nightmare was nearly over. Hours later, I sat in a sterile Raleigh hospital room on an uncomfortable cot, surrounded by the sharp smell of disinfectant and buzzing fluorescent lights. My leg throbbed where Ortiz's bullet had torn through, now neatly stitched. The doctor seemed unconcerned, predicting normal mobility within a week, but each pulse felt ominous. In the adjacent room, Sadie slept peacefully under sedation, her breathing steady beneath a hospital blanket. The medics had documented her injuries: minor abrasions, facial bruising, dehydration, all temporary. She'd recover physically, but during her brief consciousness in the ambulance, her vacant stare had pierced through me, reaching somewhere dark and unreachable. She'd remained silent, clutching my hand desperately. I'd embraced her, whispering assurances of safety. Her slight nod did little to erase that haunting look. Lila Tran paced outside, her boots echoing against the tile as she barked directives into her phone. Her ATF unit had burst in at the crucial moment, apprehending Victor's gang in handcuffs while Ortiz lay lifeless on the shack's concrete floor. My phone recording had clinched it. Every conversation, every menacing word, captured with perfect clarity. Enough evidence to ensure their downfall. Lila entered, her expression tense, badge catching the harsh overhead light. She propped herself against the doorframe. Ortiz's empire is unraveling, Miles. Teams are hitting his storage facilities tonight, but we're not out of the woods. I adjusted my position, my injured leg protesting the movement. What about Tara? Lila's expression hardened. In custody. Money laundering charges are solid. Kidnapping's more complex. She's terrified, naming names for a lighter sentence. Looking at 5 years minimum. I fixed my gaze on the walls peeling paint, tasting bile. Tara's decisions had led us here, but I remembered her cowering under Ortiz's influence, like a chess piece trapped by a ruthless opponent. My phone vibrated against my leg. A message from my defense firm supervisor. Kendrick, we're facing issues. System flagged unauthorized access. Surveillance and drone usage without approval. Contact me immediately. My stomach churned. I'd anticipated the traffic camera hack would surface eventually, but seeing it confirmed made me shiver. My career was finished. Legal consequences loomed. I pushed the phone aside, feeling overwhelmed. One crisis at a time. Jonas entered later, nursing his arm from a bullet wound sustained at the shack. He handed me a vending machine coffee before sinking into a chair with a grimace. Hell of a night, brother. I chuckled darkly, sipping the awful brew. You could say that. He massaged his neck, glancing toward the corridor. Lila's supporting you, but federal agents are sniffing around. Ortiz's death reads as self-defense, but they'll investigate. And Tara's cooperating. If she implicates you in anything illegal, you're in deep. I gripped the cup tighter, feeling its warmth. And Sadie? Jonas exhaled heavily. She's withdrawn completely. Doctors recommend counseling time. Maybe relocate her from Raleigh. Too many memories here. The hospital room seemed to constrict, its walls pressing inward. I struggled to my feet, limping toward Sadie's room, peering through the glass panel. A faint whimper escaped her as she stirred beneath the sheets. I slipped inside, the rhythmic beeping of monitors filling the silence. Her eyes opened slowly, clouded by medication. Dad! Her voice was barely a whisper. I knelt beside her bed, gently brushing aside the damp strands of hair from her forehead. I'm here, sweetheart. She blinked languidly, studying my features. Is Mom? Will she come back? The question caught in my throat. She's still with us, but things are complicated right now. We'll figure it out. You and me. Her fingers intertwined with mine, fragile yet desperate, before she drifted back to sleep. I remained motionless, holding her hand, tormented by the question. How do you reconstruct your life when everything keeps crumbling? A movement in the hallway caught my attention. Lila's distinctive silhouette appeared, stark against the corridor lights. She gestured for me to join her, speaking in hushed tones. Miles, we've discovered something. A ledger in Ortiz's shack. It contains names, dates, payment records. Tara's mentioned, but there's someone else. Someone higher up. Untouched until now. My heart raced. Who is it? She shook her head. We're still working on that. But they'll come hunting. For the ledger. For you. I glanced back at Sadie, her small frame lost in a hospital bed. Our battle wasn't finished. Something more ominous was brewing, and we remained in its destructive path. The evening traffic of Atlanta hummed through our new apartment's cracked window, a modest rental on the city's outskirts. Sunset painted golden streaks across the room as I leaned against the kitchen counter, nursing lukewarm coffee. On the balcony, Sadie's figure stood outlined against the railing, tending to a struggling basil plant from a local flea market. Since leaving Raleigh, since the hospital became a distant memory, she'd grown quiet. Her eyes carried a weight now, a silence that consumed her once cheerful spirit. She woke screaming some nights, her terrors jolting me awake. Therapy helped, but healing took time. I'd resigned from the firm after everything exploded. They called my actions a protocol violation, corporate speak for exposing too many secrets. I accepted it without protest. No salary was worth risking, Sadie. We survived on savings now, careful with every expense, but the peace felt precious. No more encrypted documents, no more midnight drives with a loaded weapon beside me. I convinced myself we'd escaped the worst, that the darkness had receded, but some truths refused to stay buried. A forceful knock shattered the silence, making me jolt upright. Hot coffee splashed over the cup's edge, scalding my fingers as I hastily set it down. When I pulled open the door, Lila Tran stood there, her detective's badge absent, dark hair pulled into a severe bun. She clutched a weathered manila envelope, its edges wrinkled from what appeared to be anxious handling. "You're looking more like yourself," she remarked, striding in without invitation. Her eyes methodically scanned the sparse room, empty walls, worn-out couch, and a single lamp casting unsteady light from the corner. I gave a noncommittal shrug. "That's the goal." She pushed the envelope into my grasp. We decoded Ortiz's ledger. The whole thing's unraveling. Arrests happening everywhere along the coastline. But something's not adding up. My chest tightened as I tore into it, paper crackling in the stillness. Lines of figures, encrypted identities, payments routed through shell corporations. Then, at the final page's bottom, a lone character in midnight ink. X. "Nothing matches in any database," Lila stated, folding her arms. Ortiz feared them, whoever they might be. This is the only trace they left. A phantom that even he couldn't escape. I fixated on that X, its presence weighing on me like frozen steel. The space around us seemed to shrink, the atmosphere growing dense. "They're still active," I whispered, mostly to myself. Lila's expression hardened. "Perhaps. Or it's just his paranoid fantasy. Either way, stay alert, Miles." She moved toward the exit, hesitating momentarily. "Remember, you've got a daughter to protect now." The door closed behind her, her warning lingering in the air. Sadie drifted in from the balcony, her bare feet making no sound on the hardwood floor. Her eyes caught the envelope in my grip before meeting mine. "Is everything all right, Dad?" Her voice trembled slightly, as if anticipating more unwelcome news. I managed a reassuring smile, tucking the ledger into a drawer. "Just some old paperwork, sweetheart. Nothing to be concerned about." She accepted this without question, settling onto the couch and pulling a blanket across her legs. I joined her, letting the quiet envelop us. Soon, she nestled against me, her head finding its place on my shoulder. "Sometimes I find myself missing Mom," she murmured, "even after everything that happened." My throat constricted, but I kept my embrace steady. "I do too, Sod." But she made her choices, and were the ones who felt the deepest cuts. You especially. She nodded, tears glazing her eyes. "I understand. Let it go just feels impossible sometimes." I held her closer, feeling the familiar ache intensify. Tara's letters arrived regularly, sent from a northern correctional facility. 8-year sentence, shortened for cooperation. The latest remained unopened. Sadie didn't deserve that burden. Not tonight. Later, as city lights pulsed through the balcony windows, Sadie slept peacefully on the couch, her breathing rhythmic beneath the blanket. I stepped onto the balcony, the crisp night air biting my cheeks, and lit a cigarette I'd promised to give up. The ledger's contents haunted me, that mysterious X festering like an invisible wound. Were they the puppeteer who commanded even Ortiz's fear, or a calculated distraction to keep us chasing shadows? I drew deeply, watching smoke dissolve into darkness. A car lingered suspiciously below, its dark windows reflecting streetlight. My heartbeat quickened until it finally pulled away, disappearing into the urban maze. Perhaps Lila had a point. Maybe I was seeing threats in every shadow. But this ordeal had taught me one certainty: peace hangs by the thinnest thread. Tara's deception had incinerated our world, leaving Sadie wounded, me unemployed, and our family shattered. Trust, fragile as crystal, broke first, and healing meant confronting every sharp shard. She'd pursued power, wealth, whatever Ortiz promised, while we paid the price. Yet from the wreckage, I discovered what truly mattered. Sadie's heartbeat, constant against my side. Everything else could crumble. I extinguished the cigarette and watched her sleeping form. We weren't completely healed, but we survived. For now, that was enough. And so our tale draws to its conclusion. How did this ending resonate with you? Was it what you anticipated, or did it take you by surprise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this journey touched your heart, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more stories like this one. Until we meet again, dear readers,